Hi, everybody. I'm Marlene Williams, and this is the holiday gift away, get to know the authors dance that we're doing here today. And we have with us Amy Earls, and we are so excited about this gift away. There's 9 books in many genres, and you get the chance. One happy winner is going to win 9 author autographed signed paperbacks, and 9 winners are going to win 1 ebook. So this is a great gift away. Whatever genre you like, we've got you covered. So, Amy, welcome to the little mini podcast that we're doing here. And introduce yourself, tell us about your genre, and a little bit about the book that you're offering for the gift away.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so my name is Amy Earls. I live in Oregon with my husband and my 2 daughters who are 8 and 11, so keeping me busy. I did teach writing at a community college for 9 years, and now I'm an academic advisor for the college. And then I also write young adult fantasy, and it's a big part of my world, and I love it, including The King's Feather, which is part of the giveaway. And there's a picture of it right there.
Beautiful, very great cover.
Thank you.
And tell us a little bit about the book. Give us a little, sneak peek about what the book is about.
Yeah. So The King's Feather is the first book in a series called Under His Wings and inspired by the Bible story of the Walls of Jericho. So it's about an ordinary teen girl who is called to do extraordinary things, including saving her enemy's life before she loses her own.
Wow, that sounds like a great book. And I bet have your daughters, you're a little young to read it, but
They're a little bit young, but they're
yeah,
almost there. I'm like, almost.
almost. That's
When you're ready for the romance, then I'll let you,
So there's a
I'll
little
let you
touch
read
of
it.
romance in
There
there.
is.
Okay, that sounds
Yes.
like a fantastic book. I have really enjoyed getting to know these authors because every book that somebody describes, I'm like, I want to read that. I want to read that.
There's
So
so many books to read, isn't
there
there?
are. There's a few too many. Who is your ideal reader for The King's Feather?
Yeah. So my ideal reader are, I think, really just ones who have found that they really connect with that genre or that book, or just like not every book or style is going to be for every reader.
That's right.
And when I do find like a reader who's like, oh, this is one of the best books I've ever read, it's a perfect match. And I love that just because there is a good book for every reader. And
Amen.
when you can find that connection, it's magical. There's an experience out of it that people just really gravitate toward and enjoy. And my ideal reader is someone who's loves that YA fantasy, loves some romantasy in there, and is looking for that.
Okay, so this is the question I asked our other fantasy author. Are there dragons involved? Because a lot of people, the minute you say fantasy, they picture Tolkien or C.S.
Right.
Lewis So what brand of fantasy are we talking
Yeah,
here?
great question. Yeah, so mine is focused on it's contemporary. So it's
Mhm.
not the epic kind of fantasy or like the one that you would see with Tolkien or Lewis, where you do have some mythical creatures. It is contemporary, so it's set in modern day times.
Mhm.
And then it also has portal
Oh,
jumping,
cool.
so a little bit of Narnia in there, in that there's some doors that open into another universe, and it's parallel universe. So what happens there is similar to what happens here, but at a slower time.
Wow, cool.
But a lot of contemporary kind of feel as if we're the ones invited into this imaginative place right now.
Wow, that sounds really good. I'm not a dragon. Well, I am a dragon girl in some cases, but I just wanted to clear that up because that's almost the immediate assumption is like
Yes.
fantasy equals dragons. So,
Yes,
and
but
medieval
not all the
dragons.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
there's
all the
there's a
time.
lot of varieties.
Well, speaking of reading and how much you love to read, we're going to jump into who you are as a reader and as an author.
Mhm.
These are books that we are assuming are going to be gifts for people. Although, if you want to hoard them like a dragon on his jewels, you go right ahead and hoard these books for yourself. But if you're giving them away, we're talking about giving books. What was the book that you got as a gift that you've never forgotten? That just the
Ah.
best book that you ever got?
I don't know if I could choose just one,
It's
but
tough.
I immediately thought of my critique group, which is a group of local authors around me in Oregon, and we get together twice a month and we look at each other's chapters, and they've all been published a lot more than I have, and so they have, maybe a dozen books published, and so they really have taught me a lot. But every time that they bring a new book and show it to everybody and hand it out to everybody, it's just really exciting to see. And it feels like the best gift ever to me, just because I know how much work was put into
Oh,
it. And I know the time that they dedicated to just putting in all the effort and work, and to see the end results is just a precious gift every time.
that's a great answer, Amy.
Mm.
I love that answer. That's chef kiss on that one. So speaking of your girls not quite ready for this, but somebody taught you to read. Who taught you to read? And what's the first book that you can remember reading?
Yeah, my mom taught me how to read, and Uh, I do remember reading it was called the Mandy series, I think it was,
Mhm.
and Grandma's Attic or something along those
Oh,
lines.
yes, my daughters read those. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yes, I remember reading those, and that first book really stuck out to me. I just remember loving the adventure. Another one that I really distinctly remember is C.S. Lewis's The Magician's Nephew, the first in that Narnia series. Well, technically the second.
Technically the something,
Yes,
right? Yeah, right.
first or second. Who knows?
Oh,
Anyway,
that's
I
great.
remember that was my favorite, and really, I think inspired me to become a fantasy writer later on down the road.
I just love these connections that we don't see
Mhm.
until we look back on them and like, "Oh, that's why I wound up right." Like the mystery writers, I lived in Nancy Drew, or you
Ah,
have
yes.
the romance writers. We have one of our gals is a romance writer, and she's like, "I read this one romance book and I thought, that's what I wanna write. That's what," and it's what
Yes.
resonates with your soul, right? It's something
Yes.
exists in you and you're like, "Oh, I love this kind of book. This is me." So,
Yep.
it's wonderful to see how the Lord doles out these different interests so that we can reach so
Totally.
many different readers with hope of the gospel. But we'll get to that in a minute, folks. We're
Mhm.
going to jump back here. Do you have a favorite book of all time, like the one that is up there on the pillar of your favorite book?
Oh, that's a hard one to choose too.
Yeah.
But one that does come to my mind that I read in recent years, last few years, is called Calculated by Nova McBee. And it's a young adult. It is fantasy, but it's a little bit more contemporary, maybe a little bit more magical realism. But yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's a huge adventure, and involves math equations, which I am not crazy about, but I am when I read this book. It just is one that I could not put down. And also inspired by a Bible story of Joseph, and just his journey into slavery and out of slavery and all of that. So fascinating read.
And folks, as we said, that all of these books will be listed in the comments. So we're compiling quite a list, Amy, of some really
Good.
awesome books from all the different authors that are talking about you got to read this book. So that's one we haven't heard yet. And yeah, no, if I saw a book that was like on the back cover, it said, this has got math equations, I'd be like, next. So I'm glad that you qualified that a
Oh
little
yeah.
bit. So that's really cool.
Yes.
And what book are you reading right now? What's on your the top of your TBR pile?
I just got done reading a book by Becky Wade. It is what was it called now? Rocky Road. Yes, Rocky Road. And I love a good rom com. Like I gotta read those every once in a while. I'll read other books and then I'll go back to it. So she just is laugh out loud funny, and
Great.
I really enjoyed that one.
Wonderful. Another great recommendation. I write rom-coms. You're gonna love my book.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
so let me ask you about when you're writing. What's your location in the house? Are you a coffee shop person? What's your environment?
Oh, I tried a coffee shop just the other day just to try it again, and I'm like, I cannot focus.
I hear that. I don't know how people do that, but it's popular on the internet apparently.
Oh,
So
I'm just like hearing the conversations. I'm
yeah,
like, no, I
yeah,
don't want to put that in my book.
right.
So yes, I do like to be at home. I like to focus. I like it quiet if possible. Which can be challenging with kids, but when they're at
Yeah,
school, I take advantage of that.
yeah.
Um, when I can. And so I do like to have quiet. For a while, I listened to like instrumental kind of music,
Mhm,
and that
mhm.
really helped. Right now, I'm just in silence.
Just in the cone of silence, just
Yes,
you
yes,
and your
it's
muse, so to
working
speak.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really. Are you working on the sequel to The King's Feather?
I actually working on book 3 in the
Oh,
series.
wow.
So,
That's
yeah, book
great.
2, came out this last January. So, yeah, almost done, and it's, also inspired by Ruth and Boaz and their stories. So, a lot of
Oh.
romance in this one, but
Oh, yeah,
went
that's
down
great.
went down the line of, the, genealogy
Yes, for
from
Rahab and
Rahab.
then
Mhm.
right. Oh,
Yep,
that's
yep,
awesome. It's one of my favorite genealogies in the scriptures. So there you go. That's
yep.
great. If you're not familiar with that, folks, you got to read these books. This is going to be a
Mhm.
great introduction to those stories. Um, Let me ask you what a couple of other questions. Do you have any, first of all, what's in your cup when you're writing? And do you have any little rituals that you do to kind of get you in the groove?
I usually will drink tea just because I can't do coffee all the time, but I'll drink coffee too when I can. Some decaf, I guess. And then I don't know if I have any rituals except for one. I guess maybe this is a quirky thing. Maybe this just isn't every writer does this thing where I'll like think in my head of an action that a character is doing, and then I'll kind of like move my hands to kind of project that action, like where I'm like, okay, so it goes like this, the shape is like this, and then it goes like I do quirky acts, I guess, with
So maybe
acting
it's good
out.
that you're not in the coffee
Yeah,
house when you're
probably.
what
I'd
is
say
that
that's a
lady
safe.
doing over there?
Oh,
Right?
totally. Yes. Yeah. Writers are weird. So
They are. Writers are weird, and you heard it here first, folks. This is absolutely true. And we call that air cooking. I used to be a food
Ah,
writer, and the chefs would be, it's like, you see the guys in the Olympics, they're up at the ski thing and they're going like this.
yes.
And they're
Yeah.
sort of visualizing the whole thing, and chefs do this too. Okay, you're gonna do this, and that's what we're doing. We're like, okay, if she's over here
Yeah.
and he's there, how far is it going to be? So yeah, it's a little quirky, but it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Oh,
You get to
yes.
visualize the whole
Oh,
story.
totally.
That's very cool. So,
Mhm.
getting to our kind of the meat here is all of the books in the gift away, and this is something we discovered as a group of authors, of writers. They convey a spiritual truth. So, which truth does your book put front and center?
Yeah. I love that question so much. So the truth that my book centers on is to encounter the power of forgiveness, and
Mm.
even when it hurts, even when it doesn't feel good.
And it rarely does.
It doesn't. Yeah. And so what the power of forgiveness can do in our lives.
Wonderful. That is so, so important. And especially if yours are YA, if you learn that lesson early in life, boy, you are golden. That
Mhm.
is
Mhm.
fantastic, Amy. I'm so grateful for that. What's interesting is as I've done these interviews, everybody has a different truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is like, something for everyone. It is really the candy box of whatever you pick up, there's going to be something delicious and sweet and satisfying in what you read. So we will encourage you again, enter the holiday gift away. The link will be in the comments below, and you can learn more about Amy at her website. I'm assuming your website, could you give us the URL for that?
Yes, it's amyearls.com.
And Earls is spelled just the way you think it is, folks. So
EARLS.
there it is. So
Mhm.
we have the opportunity to win. And even if you don't win, I think you're going to want to hop over and pick up this book for, especially at Christmas, when you have teenagers on your list and you don't know what to get them or you don't know what kind of books they like. I promise you, they're going to like this kind of book because so many teenagers love to live in another world because the one they're living in right now is very hard to navigate for them. So to give this to a grandchild, a niece, or a nephew, I think that's a great idea. Anyway, Amy, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for being part of the holiday gift away. And Merry Christmas to everybody out there, and blessings. We can't say good luck, I guess, but we can say blessings, and buy the book and then win the other book and give it away. So we'll say goodbye for now, and be sure and enter the gift away. Bye, everybody.
Bye.